I think the one thing I want to mention here is on our website, we see half of the requests that come through for like a vacation rental are asking for a chef but haven't booked a vacation rental yet. Means they're shopping around. And this is quite big because it just emphasizes this is not an upsell after booking. This is a consideration at like the highest top of the funnel.
Property management at scale is about more than just rent rolls and maintenance calls. It's about protecting your assets, delivering stellar guest experiences, and scaling operations without losing quality. Welcome to Minute by Minute, the show where industry leaders share unfiltered stories, proven strategies, and real solutions for operating at scale. I'm your host, Nils Mattisson, CEO of Minut, and together we will dive deep into what it really takes to keep your properties safe, efficient, and protected. Let's get started.
Today we're thrilled to welcome Siddhi Mittal, the co-founder and co-CEO of yhangry, a fast-growing platform that's redefining how hospitality operators deliver in-home experiences. Since launching in 2020, yhangry has partnered with hundreds of short-term rental managers across the UK, helping them transform private chef experiences into one of the most powerful revenue-driving upsells in the industry. Siddhi's journey is anything but traditional. She began in AI and trading before turning her outsider's perspective into an advantage, building a marketplace that elevates guest stays while creating new income streams for chefs. In this conversation, we'll explore the rise of experience-led stays, how operators can unlock serious revenue through thoughtful upselling, and where the SDR industry is heading as guest expectations continue to evolve. Siddhi, it's a pleasure to have you here today. How are you doing?
Neil, so excited to be here, and I'm good. Excited to get into this chat.
Let's start with your journey, Siddhi. You've gone from AI and trading to building yhangry. When you look back, what were some of the key moments or realizations that nudged you to get out of finance and into building a startup?
Yeah, of course. I think background is always really important. I grew up in India and I saw my dad being an entrepreneur. And it's not like a sexy term. It's like a businessman who's hustling hard to provide for his kids, and he did everything, like anything and everything went. And I think that journey was full of high highs, low lows, but I always felt like, okay, that's very cool. And you get to do something on your own terms. Then when I went to Columbia, did AI, you kind of just end up getting a job because you've paid for a great university. And that's like the traditional career path. And I remember really loving trading, thinking, oh my God, I could make $1 million or lose $1 million. This is like poker money and this is crazy. And it's like, I'm so important in this world. But then I think very quickly, 4 to 5 years in, I just kind of had this crisis where I just realized I wasn't kind of having an impact on anything anywhere. And the only focus of my life day in and out was making money. And that was that was very unidimensional. Like it wasn't enough anymore. So I think at that point, I kind of was like, right, if there's anything else, what it is that I want to do. And that was when I started looking around for what problems I had that I might want to solve. And actually being in a corporate, you earn enough money, but you never have time to cook. That was always a problem, 100%. So that kind of ended up being one of the problems I picked up first, which actually was yhangry.
And how deliberate were you about seeking out the industry in particular? I think this is one of the interesting thing about our industry, the short-term rental space, is that it is quite friendly. It's a bit of a community. And I stumbled into it. But a lot of other people have been seeking it out because they like the sort of intersection of people and business. How was it for you?
Oh my God, completely accidental. And actually, we are in a double whammy hospitality because we're hospitality because we do private chefs. So people get food. If you think of restaurants, that's hospitality. And we only started off thinking people will have this in their homes, like £40 per person for all in. It's insane prices. Was the restaurant, blah, blah, blah. It's only last year when I was looking at my data. And at this point, we're UK wide. Everything is great. I realized 55% of our bookings are actually short-term rental or vacation rentals. I didn't even know what that meant. And I just thought, wow, how do I partner with these people with homes? And after enough Googling, I found it's a whole industry, there are conferences, and actually people are incredibly amazing and there's this community. So we fell into this because this was already happening and our business was already being used. And then we just decided, actually, why not give these people a kickback? And it's a better channel than always just paying Google, Facebook to acquire customers,
Isn't it great about running a startup how you're learning so much more than when you're in a corporate environment? I love those sort of light bulb moments. We had a bit of an opposite one. Like when we started Minut, we started it with the Airbnb host in mind. But when we first launched, actually 80% of our customers were consumers, and we scratched our heads for a long time. We're still sort of scratching our heads, but we scratched our heads for a long time. And we actually, I think, pushed a little bit too far, like sort of following the customer before coming back to what we had set out to do and staying true to our roots. So it's interesting that you have sort of done the journey from almost like the consumer side to the shorter rental side. And you launched yhangry in 2020. How have you seen the industry evolving in that time?
Yeah, so honestly, when we launched, COVID happened and it was illegal to operate a business. So that was why. And I was like, that's interesting. You left a high-paying job to just sit home and like God knows do what. And that was funny. But I would say post-COVID, the whole kind of industry changed for chefs and like demand for services at home. People just became more comfortable being at home. And this was the same for like furniture sales going up, people spending more on beauty products because Zoom and virtual sessions became bigger. So basically our industry became bigger, which was very exciting post COVID, and it became more natural. So we kind of enjoyed the advantage of that. We also did like Dragon's Den, which was really fun in 2021. And then we got a lot of PR because of that. And just like as marketing is always like so hard. So as a founder, that was very helpful. And then I would say, 2022, 2023, just really, really good years for us. We launched all across UK, grew like rapidly 800% in 2 years. Like that was like quite phenomenal for us. And then 2024 was kind of like the SDR boom for us, or the revelation, like you say, like, you're learning every single day. And I think what really kind of made me think, wow, this is real, is because Airbnb had already pre-announced they will be launching chefs and guest services. So I literally went to the first conference and I was like, oh my God, this is happening in this sector. And everyone seems to be talking about guest experiences. So I thought that timing was like very fascinating, the time we entered and the time everyone in the industry started talking about guest experiences, especially because there's oversupply and as the focus is back on demand, So yeah. So I think that's kind of like the wave we saw. And we've launched in US now, so it's kind of exciting for us to be, finally playing on like a more exciting global level, let's say, than just UK.
Yeah, I feel like the industry as a whole has been on this very long arc. Like we weren't in business then, but if you stayed in an Airbnb in 2009, it was quite often, let's just say on the budget side of the spectrum, perhaps you would be like a room the host was staying next door, and there was definitely not a professional cleaner, but you saved a bit of money towards the hotel, or compared to a hotel. And then as the industry evolved, the guest expectations got higher and higher and higher and higher. And so I think it's sort of only natural that we've gone from like on that trajectory, and now we're at private chefs, which is obviously at the very high end of the spectrum. So I think that makes that makes a lot of sense. And talk a bit more about the US. I didn't actually know that. So when did you launch, and how have you sort of prepared to get into it?
Yeah, so we launched in US this October, and it's been kind of phenomenal because, well, we knew that vacation rental is so big, that's going to be a core part of our launch strategy. And we did the crazy thing of like having chefs everywhere in US versus launching city by city. So that was wild. And I think we're still figuring out like, oh my God, how do you get product and supply and demand all at the same time? But actually, within the first 1 month, we had over 1,600 chefs, which is like over 200% of chefs that Airbnb has in the US, like activated and on our platform. And we have like $1 million worth of demand, completely organic. And this is like, we were just shocked, because when you open the taps, literally nothing happens usually. So it's very exciting. Yeah. Like, and the ticket sizes are a lot bigger. For example, like if someone books in UK, it's £750. That's like the average AOV. They can also book for £200 because it's like it can be UberX or Uber Lux, however you make it. But then in America, that AOV is like $1,500 to $2,000. So as a business, it's way more lucrative to be in that market. So yeah, I think so far, really exciting growth shoots. And also it feels like the vacation rental industry in US can be a lot faster to pull the trigger. So from the first conversation to like actually saying, cool, you guys are live with us, could be like a matter of days, which is like very refreshing.
This echoes so many of our experiences of launching in the US. Like customers are much more willing to take a risk on something new. Yeah, there is I think there is a bit more of an entrepreneurial spirit, like just in the ecosystem as a whole. So you get a bit more risk taking, which is great. I mean, normally when you start a marketplace, it's quite tricky to have both the demand side and the supply side sort of developing in tandem. But it sounds like you have a playbook for that now, running so many cities.
Yeah, 100%. I think one thing I didn't mention is in our history, we also did Y Combinator. So it's like the same accelerator that Airbnb has done. And actually, Guesty also came out of. And I feel like so there's like this rich history of marketplaces that we've kind of like been able to like peek into. And if you look at our website, it kind of reminds people a little bit of the Airbnb, you know? So we kind of had all of that. But yeah, I think everything you said is very true. We built that playbook in UK, but I think the playbook is really tested when you launch in a new geo. So I feel like that playbook is now being like put to a test, and we're now realizing, okay, oh my God, actually, you have to launch product 3 months before you start getting supply, else you're in this like constant battle every day of chefs being like, oh my God, what's going on? So yeah, I think it's been quite wild the way we've done US, but we're better prepared for our Europe launch next year, let's say. And this playbook is really like refining itself.
Do you think it was an advantage that for you that Airbnb sort of pre-announced that they were going to go into experiences and the market was a bit primed?
100%. I think when people hear the word private chef, and I would even say me, even like I'm from India and like cooks are very normal, but if I hear private chef, it just sounds so bougie. But the reason this platform was started, like people just think, oh my God, that's just like literally like who even uses that? But that's crazy because all that's saying is a chef in your home. And every private chef doesn't earn what Gordon Ramsay's earning. They don't earn thousands and thousands of dollars. Actually, what people don't know is like restaurant chefs are one of the lowest paid chefs out there. 24, they don't even earn $24,000 like pounds in UK. It's so crazy. So when our platform bridges the gap, you just have all these chefs that are struggling for money, starting to earn more, build their profile, blah, blah, blah. So I think, yeah, I guess the point I was making was when people say private chefs, it's not really that elite. Actually, it can be super affordable, and a platform kind of does that. And I've forgotten why I went on this like tangent of really trying to drill in that private chefs is not just for the top 1%.
I think that's a very good point. And it also, of course, is in line with a lot of other things in the industry, right? Like Uber can be everyone's private driver. That sounds like having a chauffeur sounds like you should be wearing a top hat and like a monocle.
Absolutely. Oh, I remembered. Whereas now anyone can get like a chauffeur, and that's amazing. Oh, you were saying was Airbnb a bonus? It absolutely was because kind of like their execution as such a big platform, you can't do everything well. So I feel like we've kind of benefited twofold. One, them announcing meant everyone in the industry was like, oh, right, what is this? And they're suddenly more open to offering this themselves and seeing how they can benefit from it. And second, I actually don't think Airbnb's execution on this is very good. I mean, it's not me. I think it's just like general consensus, which then means we can just come in and fill the gap and just do private chefs really, really well. Whereas Airbnb is trying to do everything, like a massage therapist, chef, like everything. And I feel like when you try to do everything too quickly horizontally, that usually kind of doesn't go well.
So can we talk about the economics of this? Like, so when you talk to property managers and they want to add private chefs or other experiences, what does success look like from a P&L point of view for a property manager?
Yeah, for sure. So I think I can take an example. We have a property manager, Kate and Tom's. They have 200 properties. And obviously here, if you have slightly bigger properties or more 6+ guests, slightly larger, or maybe a little bit more luxurious, this is like a perfect fit. Otherwise, we still do 2 people, 3 people, etc. But for these 200 properties, this property manager earns 3K a month. So in the year, they're earning 36K of like pure profit. And all they've had to do for this incremental revenue is add like affiliate link out to their requests, bookings, guest comms. And actually, so one, they kind of earn, let's say 36K a year. And the second benefit is they've seen an uptick in conversion on their own website because they know this has become such a core part of how they advertise staying at their properties, beautiful houses, chefs, and people really, inquire for their properties.
And that's 36K that if they were using the Airbnb experiences side,
Exactly.
they would never see. So
Exactly.
it's an easy choice for the property manager.
Absolutely.
And how does that look like from the guest perspective when the property manager has integrated your platform into their sort of upsell machine? What do we see?
Of course. And I think there's like a current version and then also potentially a future version, which is very exciting because AI is changing things. The current version is very simple. As a guest, just we do this quick call with the PM because we are stack agnostic. Whatever PMS you use, whatever website, it's very easy to add affiliate link out. So as a guest, you'll probably receive an email or SMS or a guidebook, and you can just go and say, oh, this is interesting. Click on our website, go through that quick journey, book private chefs directly with yhangry. I think what I am excited for, like the V2 journey of AI, is there are loads of guest books and like messaging that's now involving AI, which might just mean that in like the next 3 to 4 months, we are like talking to HostBuddy, Conduit, and like a bunch of very exciting AI softwares, which will just be able to say, oh, you're looking for a chef? What kind? And this will just all happen in the messaging itself. You never have to leave that interface and go onto yhangry's website to book a chef, which will be a more slick experience for the customer.
That makes a lot of sense. I think we're going to see a lot of the front end collapse into what feels like a concierge service, but is really an AI made specifically for the purpose. I'm looking forward to that. Will definitely be a customer of yours then.
Yes, I know, because it's so annoying to go to the website and click a bunch of buttons. And I think even internally as a business, we're making that change where right now I feel like we're still living in the old ages because AI is changing so fast, where if someone WhatsApps us, we will probably resolve that and send them back to the website. But like in the next 3 to 4 months, we should be able to facilitate that request far enough or end to end on whichever interface you come. So if you're emailing us, great, we can just email you back stuff. You don't ever need to leave email. So I'm quite excited about that generally as like a better user experience.
I think you're right. And I mean, I've as you know, I've used yhangry in the past. And one thing that I've found is really amazing is the diversity that you offer on the platform. But it can also be overwhelming. And I remember when we celebrated a birthday and I put out a request for a private chef. Sounds like a lot, you're right. But the amount of things you get back is truly extraordinary. And it can be quite difficult to choose. So I think a bit of AI there could certainly help smoothen that experience. Can this go too far? Like let's look at sort of the other side of it. Like this is one of many experiences and upsells that property managers are using. We see on our end of the spectrum more around midterm cleaning fees. We see upsells for early check-ins and late checkouts, that sort of thing. Do you think there's a risk here that like at some point the guest will start to feel a bit over monetized or sort of like feel like the property manager is selling to them rather than hosting them?
Of course. I think great question. And I think, oh God, I can't even opine or like get into the rabbit hole of cleaning fees or like how that's perceived by guests because it's a whole different story. But I would say, I think, okay, when I travel, for example, you are comparing a property versus the other and the potential amenities that are to be offered. And I think, okay, one thing is like what's available in the home. Then obviously there's like some flexibility around guest check-ins. But then the third thing is, okay, what else could I do? And when you're looking at what else can I do, whether it's like pigeon shooting at the property or someone can come over and do something, all of these you need to pay for because like it can't be included. It's not a part of the home. But just the fact that someone's bothered to include a bunch of these things makes your life a little bit easier because you as the customer don't need to run around and curate that, obviously, unless AI does that for you. So I just think, and actually talking about AI, in future, the more your properties have things like that, you might be more suitable for AI when people are looking for like, oh, I want a property that does XYZ and like offers some experiences. So I just think something like this is such a add-on where the customer kind of obviously knows they need to pay for it, but it's their option where it doesn't really hurt the property manager to say, hey. And I think the one thing I want to mention here is on our website, we see half of the requests that come through for like a vacation rental are asking for a chef but haven't booked a vacation rental yet. Means they're shopping around. And this is quite big because it just emphasizes this is not an upsell after booking. This is a consideration at like the highest top of the funnel. You know, like people are realizing chefs exist and it's so cool on TikTok and Instagram. And they already probably know they want this at your property. So, and they're already making those queries and then they're finding a property where they can have that. So if your property kind of is set up for it, they're like, oh, cool, actually, that makes a lot of sense. I should just go with you. And you might just see a higher conversion on your own booking because people are already booking these experiences.
I think one of the things that is sometimes fair, sometimes unfair, is that when we review the stay that we've just had, we are often reviewing the whole experience. The things that had to do with the property manager and the things that didn't. But it also means that the host is really incentivized to make sure that the guest gets the best possible experience. And I think this is something that can, of course, really elevate the stay wherever you are. I also think a clear distinction is like I can feel nickel and dime when you're having to pay a little bit of extra for an early check-in, for example. It doesn't. I know that doesn't cost anything extra to the property manager. It's pure profit, but I don't think anyone is going to be expecting a free private chef anytime soon. Let's talk about the chef side. So one thing that you said earlier in our conversation, which I really like hearing, is like how you are giving more power to a chef and you're sort of enabling them to make their own thing. So how does the experience look for them, and what is the thing that you're doing that is enabling them to maybe start their own small chef business compared to like working for a larger company?
Yeah. So I think as a chef, like imagine you work at a restaurant and just think of all the things you need to do to become a private chef. It's crazy. You need to know how to set up a website. You need to market. You need to spend money to get some customers. You need to set up an Instagram account. You then need to be able to send the invoice to get payment. You then need to make sure your calendar is okay and you show up. You do grocery shop. It's crazy. There really is a lot of logistics. And what yhangry does is takes care of the whole sort of tech platform, AK logistics, but also gives them the customer, which is actually the hardest thing to get because it costs money and time. So as a restaurant chef, literally you could come to yhangry tomorrow, or like any chef really, like private chefs can get more jobs too. You go through a quick onboarding flow, upload some menus, photos, answer a bunch of questions, very standard marketplace style. We vet it, then you go online, done. And then you actually start receiving customer requests like, hey, I want a chef this time, this place. And you have the luxury to set your own price and respond to the menus based on whatever you want to cook. So that's like a huge kind of flexibility. And it's exciting. You can change up these menus. And then the platform facilitates the payment, reminds you of things. If you need to charge more, you can do all of that in one place. So it's really empowering anyone who is a chef to start getting these private chef jobs as quickly as like within the next hour or two. It's really quite rapid. And then I think just a success story of that is one of our chefs that joined. And and everyone knows this, it matters how much you put into the platform and how well you optimize whatever, but earn like $14,000 in 1 month. And that was like crazy because the chef like had banging photos, responded to requests, was personalized, kind of was in there using the platform. And that's like a significant amount for a chef to earn in a month by just joining a platform.
I think another aspect of it is can also really elevate the quality of the experience. In a very long time ago, I did a bit of extra work when I was a student in a restaurant, and I remember that one of the most difficult things was actually like how quick you have to turn around and make a dish, and how difficult it is to do something at scale. Whereas in like a private chef environment, you can plan, and it's so much easier to make. You know you're going to make 12 plates of something, and you have the time to prepare it, compared to like getting an order from a diner and then having to turn around and then having to have that extremely consistent. So I think it also like allows you to maybe be a little bit more creative and maybe elevate an experience a bit higher even than a restaurant.
Massively. And there are like so many articles about how chefs get burnt out and have mental health issues, which is like a real thing in restaurants because of the brutal hours. And also, you're doing the same thing over and over again. Whereas here, like you said, you set your own menus. You also get to interact with the customers, which chefs often don't. Mostly they don't. And lastly, you also get tips. We have chefs that'll make like $700 on a tip in a night. And you're like, dude, that's amazing. This is on top of everything you earned. And like you got so, and the customer told you directly how amazing your food was. So yeah, it's like a way better quality of life and creativity.
That's great. I hope you're proud of that.
I really am. I feel like this is the part of the business which like reminds you, it has like the heart of the business is our chefs and how we're changing their lives. And yeah, it's very exciting.
Let's look at the regulatory side. So short-term rental industry, of course, like we're seeing a lot of regulation throughout the world, really. And it's a bit of a patchwork. Sometimes you have regulations around noise and nuisance. Sometimes it's guest safety. And what these things have in common is often that it's about the community impact. Is there an angle here for you in terms of how you help operators maybe like de-risk and differentiate a bit compared to the more regulated side of the industry?
Yeah, I mean, so I think we've already discussed, I guess, like kind of having private chef on your listing and how it helps make you like differentiated, blah, blah. Not fully sure how that fully ties into like the regulatory side. I know it's crazy and I feel like this whole industry has to keep up all the time with like the regs coming in. I guess so far, yeah, all I'll say is like, this is experience in your property away from instead of like in the city, so it kind of becomes a part of your home. And yeah, on the chef side it's kind of like they come with their insurance, PMs are not doing any logistics, so it's kind of just like a one click add on to my property, which makes it nicer. But yeah, not fully sure yet how still this factors into any of the regulations coming through or how those two things tie in together.
One area where we're seeing still early days, I would say, but like where we're seeing things being discussed, and in the UK also like new things coming, is around guest safety and how the sort of the property manager actually is starting to get a bit more responsibility and liability compared to the owner. And this is mostly around the safety in the home and fire safety and these type of things. But when you have a third party operator like the chef, and then you have the property manager, you have an owner, like who is responsible for the guest safety aspects of providing services in your home?
Actually, that's really great. Yeah. So actually, yhangry, like in UK, actually has overall insurance. So property managers can be at peace that like, okay, all of these people come insured, vetted, and that in case anything happens, which God knows what that is, maybe like a knife has been dropped or something like that, it's yhangry that they go back to. And then in America, we're figuring like obviously each geo has its own landscape. Actually, so far, all our chefs have their own individual insurance when they walk into property units. Yeah. And so far, I'd say like the sizes of this, because it's like a vacation rental, it's not like it's like a giant party. It's kind of more like sit down, etc. But yeah, I would say the contract is sort of between the host and then the chef, and yhangry is there facilitating and making sure the whole the experience lands on yhangry. So PMs are not worried about what's happening, and they have the required insurance stocks.
I think that's another reason why platforms actually has a role to play, whether it's yhangry or Airbnb. Like there is certainly a liability element that maybe isn't like the thing that we think about first, but it's important to get all of these aspects right.
Absolutely.
So one thing you said earlier, which I maybe hadn't fully appreciated, is like the how wide the spectrum is that you provide on the platform. So you have both like relatively inexpensive, maybe meal help, and then the very top end. What is performing best?
Yeah, good question. I think what performs really well is sort of somewhere in the middle. You just have like a fine dining 3-course meal, and it's just like kind of a bestseller because people who are trying to book casual get excited about like a more premium experience. So I feel like that just like sells the more in terms of like the number of sales. But then I would say, having said that, the luxury end is just a no-brainer. So I think for everyone else in the market, this is like a new category. It's like, oh my God, that's so exciting. Like, let me try this out. This is so fun. But if you are someone who books an expensive home or you are a luxury customer, this is something you're used to. And there, like our AOVs can be like $25,000, like $30,000. And there you're like, dude, yeah, like I'm staying there. I need help all the time, multiple meals, whether it's like a multi-day stay, or actually I'm booking a dinner, but actually, yeah, I want to pay like $600 per person or $1,000 per person, just like really lavish. And that is like a part of the market, which is very lucrative for us. And it's like an immediate fit. So yeah, we kind of have both. And we are very excited about the creating the category though, because like I think when you look in socials, it's so exciting for chefs to be like, I loved cooking for someone who's celebrating a bachelorette, because they were just so thankful. They just couldn't believe how amazing this is. Whereas obviously when you're cooking for the luxury segment, they already use chefs all the time, you know? As a chef, it's actually more rewarding cooking for the non 1%.
Yeah, maybe the people who have their first experiences, of course. I can see that. Are people on your platform like starting to build their own brands almost, like where they are adopting a bit of an identity, similar to how we see on the OTAs, where property managers are sort of almost like in a bit of a tug of war, where they are building their own brand and they want to attract maybe like repeat guests and things like that. Do you see the same dynamic on yhangry?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I would say over time, yeah, it'll be very similar. Like, for example, when people start doing really, really well, it just depends. If they have transitioned full time to a private chef, they're way more incentivized to then start taking those good photos, actually having an Instagram, keep that updated, because they should very much have an online presence themselves separately. Whereas if someone still is working at a restaurant but taking side shifts, or doing this but like really it's just like can't be bothered. So I think there are different categories, but yes, definitely if you are someone who is earning a lot, starting to see this is working, and then going deep into private chefing, you will be then building your own online presence and kind of like opening up that I'm here in the ecosystem away from yhangry also. Yeah.
If we look ahead, like this is obviously an industry that is rapidly transforming, but if you're speculating, what do you see over the next 3 to 5 years?
This industry being STR vacation rental, of course. I mean, I am very excited by multiple things, which is we know for a fact there's oversupply versus demand. And this is important because this industry has gone through like big shifts. When Airbnb came, they were creating demand, but then at some point there wasn't enough supply. So we know that was a very big theme, which is what attracted a lot of people. So given there's oversupply, I think for the next few years, the theme very much will be how do you get more demand? And in this theme, it will be about AI, like how do you reduce costs to give a better, like A is like how do I attract more demand? B is like how do I actually as a PM have more profit? And I think in both of these themes, it's AI, how do I make that easier? It's guest experiences. Okay, how do I actually get demand? What do I need to do to compete against other people? Maybe it's more direct bookings because Airbnb is like hurting the bottom line, which goes back into profit. So I feel like all of these themes for me are quite important. I'm very excited about AI and guest experiences. And I feel like just seeing how it's evolving, because I do think there are loads of like, if you're just trying to ad hoc offer something guest experience wise, it might not work. It might not be lucrative. And actually, I think there's still scope for doing it better and right. And how do you connect across all of your tech systems? And I also think actually the third one is like maybe their tech stack will be simplified over time, because there's just so much going on. I think when I came into this industry, I was like, oh my God, what connects into what? And it's actually wild. And as someone who's tech savvy, it takes a second to be like, I understand. Like, why are there so many systems on top of each other? So we'll probably see simplification of that, or I hopefully do believe that would like help. Yeah.
I think so as well. Like when I came into the industry, I think there was several hundred PMSs, for example, the property management systems, and there has been consolidation. You definitely see that there are pockets where, particular segment of the market, like one type of PMS is taken over, and it might be rolling up. So they might be buying up smaller ones and putting it together. But at the same time, you are seeing new ones prop up. And I didn't really, so it's a bit hard to tell, I think, which is going faster. Is there new companies coming faster, or are the old ones consolidating faster? And I think it's a very interesting dynamic when the barrier to entry is, I don't think it's getting higher. I think if anything, it's getting lower because it's getting easier to develop software at a high pace. So I think we'll see this dynamic for a little while longer. But I hear you, and I hear a lot of our customers as well say like they are tired of having 12 different pieces of software to run their property, and they want these things to come together. Running Minut as well, like one thing I've found as we started to adopt more and more AI was all of these two-way connections between systems. Like imagine having, in a property you might have, I don't know, 7, 8 different software packages depending on how savvy you are, down or like from one, of course, like our hosts who only use Airbnb, up to people I'm sure who have even more. At Minut, we did a bit of an inventory and we found that we had about 100. So 100 different SaaS providers with different things. And now, imagine like all of the two-way connections you need in order to get like the data between all the right places. So one thing we did was we made our own sort of data lake or data store where we put everything in. So instead of making like two-way connections, we started having to build our own, and then we put all of the data in one spot to enable AI agents to pull data from different places. And so that's just what I see internally, but we would have obviously bought it if we could buy it from somewhere, but we couldn't. So we had to build it. So I'm sure there is innovation still to be had.
Absolutely. And I think just on this, and maybe it's like shout out to Conduit, which is another YC company, which we might be using, because although they're like offering vacation rental managers like a omni-channel or guest inbox or AI agents, we realize we need that. Like we have multiple different platforms. One does email, one does WhatsApp, one does SMS, and it's a nightmare. And actually, if you want to build any AI agents, where does it go? Do you build different ones for different places? So actually kind of being able to consolidate back into one inbox. So I feel like we're now back taking on that work now, and it's all about like, can I get rid of 5 softwares and have just one? Can I get rid of like all of them and have just 2, exactly like you said. So yeah.
And quite often I think you end up buying one more piece of software.
Yeah, I hear you. You never really end up getting rid of all the others. Yeah.
Yeah. What are things operators can do to stay ahead of this? It's harder than ever to sort of stay competitive and relevant. So one would be your advice.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say with kind of AI coming and LLMs, eventually everyone knows demand will go to people with like better listings or just like stuff that's more readable to LLMs. That also includes guest experiences, how your property sounds, looks, etc. So this is not like, I think thinking of the guest journey and actually thinking of what can I list upfront to get more demand is very important. Because I feel like people just think sometimes of like private chefs as upsells later. But actually, this is something you should be saying, we offer private chefs, blah, 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 on this property. Actually, this is another thing we offer. And all of this stuff should go as high up in the funnel and then also across the journey. But then I think that higher up in the funnel is very useful. But yeah, I think like if you have a chat with our team, we can kind of give you the copy, graphics, and help you insert this in your journey very quickly in like a couple of hours without creating any tech stack debt, and actually give you money back if your guests end up booking with us. Yeah.
I think that's a great pitch, Siddhi. If I was a property manager, I'd be continuing this conversation. And on a more personal note, and I like asking this because everyone in hospitality or even adjacent to hospitality has a crazy and unexpected story. Which one is yours?
Oh my God. Great question. Interesting. So we actually like hold all these like, before I say the story, we actually hold all these like fringe dinners across like conferences and like exclusive invites. And one of them, we were like, what are your crazy stories? And this is a safe space. And oh my God, the stories that came out included like hookers, people being shot, like really crazy stuff. And I was just thinking, oh my God, this is like such a crazy world, that people are going through. Yeah, I guess like our hospitality story, this is like really, really early on. Honestly, we haven't had like a strong one with the vacation rental, but food is hospitality. And I think when we started, this is like back in 2020, before we realized chefs should curate their own menus. The TLDR is I matched a chef to a customer who said they can do Indian food. And I didn't really know. I was like, okay, cool. You say you can do it. Perfect. Here's the menu. And I actually rocked up to this house to like give the chef their pack because it was just like, this was like a fifth booking or whatever. And we were so young. And then the whole evening, Nils, I proceeded because I was Indian. He kept being like, is this how you make it? And I was just sat there being like, I don't cook. I started this company because I don't cook. And there was like no, if you do Indian cooking, there's all this smell that goes everywhere, but just like a nice smell. There was no, like, I couldn't smell anything. And I was just thinking, what is going on? And it was horrible. And I think like towards the end of the night, I was like running away and I was just thinking, Jesus Christ, am I ever going to recover from this? Because the customer was like, what the hell's going on? I actually ended up going to a restaurant, buying 2x amount of dishes, bringing it back and packaging it. Oh God, it was so horrible. Like I spent 2x more than the person spent on this chef, just making sure they had food for the night. And it was like a very big experience. Lesson that chefs are good at cooking stuff that they know, especially ethnic stuff. And that's what they should be providing on the platform rather than us randomly matching cuisines with chefs.
I love that for the second reason as well. Like as an early startup story, the kind of things you do to provide a great guest experience that just does not make sense. Does not make sense when you scale. There is probably another library of those type of stories as well. It's been amazing to have you, Siddhi.
Absolutely, thank you, Nils. I enjoyed the chat.
Thank you for listening to Minute by Minute. If today's episode gave you fresh insight, be sure to subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Share this episode with your team and follow us on social media to continue the conversation and exchange your own operational stories. To learn more about privacy-first property protection, visit minut.com. Until next time, make every minute count to maintain your property's safety.